Okay, hi. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Lady Aphrodite, and this is Aphrodite's house. Different setup. I'm in my living room because I was doing some photography, so I look a lot different. So, I don't have my mic or anything, so we're just gonna kind of sort of wing it. I look a little meh because I'm all over the place, but all right, so authenticity. This is so difficult for me, especially because when you get into these modes, I think spiritually, it can be really difficult to figure out like where you sit and like how to embody your, I almost wanted to say like your faith, because it's so hard. It's like once you reach this certain height and you're so in tune with a lot and you're connected to a lot and you kind of have an idea of what's going on and everything, it can be really difficult when you're like, let's say in tune with like your higher self or whatever, and you're trying to figure out how to bring all that down here into the physical. Because like I'm sure like as you've seen throughout my channel, like my look changes so drastically, and it definitely depends on which version of me I'm the most connected to at the time. I want to make sure there was nothing in my teeth. Okay, so one of the things that I've learned is that when I am connected to my higher self, higher source of consciousness, it's always the whites, and then it's always like very funky, very just out of pocket. Like my necklace says Aphrodite, and my earrings are, you know, they're muscles. Like, are we even surprised I made those? I filled them with resin and like glitter, and originally they were an offering for Aphrodite, but now I wear them. So it's a lot of just figuring out you, your essence, your energy. I mean, like it can be so hard these days. Excuse me. Especially now, I think, because everyone, there's still like these circly cliques, and it makes it so difficult to just be you spiritually. Like, oh, you can't be, okay, like this very specifically, like, oh, you can't be black and then like goth and then like overly spiritual without being like a witch. Really? It's just weird stuff like that that still makes no sense to me. Like, you're automatically classified as like a witch, or like like you practice like Wiccan or like pagan traditions if you dress like that. Like, come on. Like, how do you know they're not initiated into Ifa? Like, you don't know. Like, you don't know. You don't know. But like, everyone is like, they still want you to have a certain look to a certain tradition or religion or spiritual practice. And it drives me absolutely nuts, because when I got into spirituality, it made it so difficult to figure out who I was and what I was comfortable with. Not only that, but like then you have to backtrack, and there's a lot of like shadow works, and there's like your childhoods. When you do the inner child shadow work, and then you end up dressing like your 6-year-old self. So for me, I'm in like pigtails and overalls, and I'm just trying to figure it out, dude. I'm just trying to figure it out. And there's angsty teenage me who looks a lot like adult me. Doesn't change. Very much still in that sort of alternative, very alternative, but very funky with it too. Like, I have my sort of 60s and 70s moments, but it is very dark. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that my Venus is in Aquarius, but then I'm ruled by Saturn. So you were just gonna get quirky and weird, but dark essence. I'm sorry. That's pretty much what you were gonna get. There was no way around it. Or like if we're looking at traditional astrology, it would be Capricorn in Venus, still ruled by Saturn. So yeah, spiritual authenticity is so hard, and I think people really need a break. Like, So when you see someone on their spiritual journey and 1 week they look like something, and the next week they look like someone else, and then the week after, like, don't question it. Don't give them a hard time. It is so much energy, not only coursing through us, not only just figuring out this lifetime, tapping into all of the energies and frequencies that we work with. So that's difficult because we embody those too. Then past lives, we embody those too. It's just a lot. And then it's a lot of sorting and figuring out what you're comfortable with and what your body's comfortable with, and then who you really are and what you can let go of. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm getting emotional now as I think about it, because like, a lot of people will like think about their past lives in like Egypt or, you know, wherever, and then they'll realize that that's why they're doing their makeup like that, or that's why they're sort of dressing like that, or that's why they're sort of pulled like that. And, you know, then you have to sit and ask yourself, like, am I healthily embodying this? Like, am I doing this as more of a nod to my past self? Am I doing this as more of like those energies or like deities I still serve? Am I doing this as more of a this is just still heavily what I feel connected to? Or do you feel so disconnected here that you would rather just go back? And so embodying that energy is your way of sort of hopping in a time machine and going back to a time period where you felt the most comfortable being you, because you don't feel comfortable here. It's hard. It's so incredibly hard. I go through these periods and these phases quite often, and it sucks. I will just say that when I embody my most authentic self and my higher version of myself, what you're looking at now is pretty much what you get. It's pretty much what you get. It's very, it is. It is. There's no real words for it, I think, and I kind of like it that way. But it took me some time to get here. It took some time to be very comfortable with, like, the strange sort of Bobby wolf cut with the, you know, with the braids on the bottom and the, you know, trying to figure out how to embody me in this lifetime and just be grounded here and just be comfortable here, because everything that I have been trying to do, I think up until this point, has just been me trying to go home, you know? And I know a lot of people in the spiritual community can relate to that or sort of make that joke. Oh, you know, I want to go home. I want to go home. It's not a joke. You embody that sort of thinking in everything you do, down to the way you dress. You literally want to go home. Whatever home is to you, it shows in the way you dress and the way you interact. And being human this lifetime is so hard for me. It is so hard that sometimes I'm just too in the spirit realm, and I'm like, I just want to go home. I can't do this shit. And so I will just embody everything that I'm so used to, that is more that speed, and it'll keep me there, and I'll be sort of floaty. But then I have to remember, I have a job to do here, and people to teach here, and people to meet here. And so then they're like, who are you here? You know, figure that out. Like, you need to be physically present here. You can't keep running away from existing here. I know it's hard, but you can't keep running from existing here, no matter how bad you want to. Woo! And my brain's kind of like, I don't want to do that. So this has been a really rough journey, especially during like my Saturn return, because it's not something I can run from. Big Daddy Saturn has literally said, if you try to run anymore, I will put the frying pan upside your head. I don't want to be bop-o'd on the head with a frying pan. So I sat down and I listened. It's not funny, but it's hilarious. Anyone who's been through this sort of gets it. Like, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's like Baskin Robbins with all the flavors. You kind of try a little bit of everything until you figure it out. Like, who was I in this lifetime? What are the lessons here? This, that. And then meeting people sort of triggers that lifetime experience. And then you go back and then you move forward. It's a lot. It's a lot. especially if you're as in tune, because like there will be people who I will hug or whose hands I will shake. Boom, I'll get the vision of the lifetime. What happened? Am I allowed to say that? I'll just beep that out. You took me for a good old joyride and I took you for a joyride. Some or another. You broke me or I broke you, or you treated me like a plaything or I treated you, you know, closing the cycle. Woohoo. Not a fun vision to have. Because then I have to decide whether or not I want to get you know, but can't do that. Can't do that. Gotta let things play out the way they're supposed to, because they don't really know what's going on. And to be like, I don't like you. And for them to be like, why? And then for you to be like, well, 10 lifetimes ago, you stabbed me in the back and I never got over it. It's kind of harsh, don't you think? And they're just looking at you like, okay. So don't text me anymore. Oh gosh, it's more like something similar where like a stabbing in the back moment could reoccur here, but we're not going to do that. We're going to rewrite history, close the cycle, fix it, rearrange it, sort of. Hopefully. Then send you on your way and I'll be on mine. But, you know, when you go through those things and you can sort of interact in that way and sort of be in tune with those energies, it can weigh very heftily on you. And you can be very quick to sort of dress like you did back then and be in that headspace like you did back then. It's a lot. You've basically time traveled. Your headspace, you are at an energetic point in time where all of this makes the most sense, where you are trying to sort of work through it and figure it out. And it shows in everything you embody. And it's just hard. Like spiritual authenticity can be so hard when you're one of those people who's bip bop boopity bop bop bopping all over the place, which is why it's so important to remain grounded, but also like just work through your shit. Like, and I get it, it's hard, but like try to work through your shit, because a lot of the times like some people use spirituality as an escape. I wouldn't say that like that's what I'm touching on. I think this is more like we're just so used to being spiritual and have had so many lifetimes where we've been spiritually inclined and have been so tapped into the other realms that like being human and having to adjust to like having to care about stuff and having attachments to people, places, and things is just so out of pocket and so unusual for us. Like having lifetimes where I was a monk and literally shaving my head and not holding on to money and people and places and things and just being, and then being like, oh, I'm a parent, I have to figure out how to parent and not be like, you're your own free spirit, you're your own individual, you have your own brain, and I know that you're your own soul and that you have your own divine blueprint. Like, yes, but you're a parent. Like, you have to be present for that. Like, be present for, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to have lived so many lifetimes in that mode and then have the one where you're like, oh, I have to care about things like bills now. I can't go back to the mountains and just, I can't do that. And they're like, no, because you have people to meet who you're supposed to teach. That requires you to be in the city. And I'm like, I don't want to be in the city. I don't want to be near people. Can I go? And they're like, no. So I think there's a difference between like living this existence and then using spirituality to escape it versus like being born in the physical realm, but heavily having your soul be in the spiritual realm and then needing to figure out how to exist in the physical realm. Like, it's just difficult. Like, the ongoing running joke, which is not a joke, is that I was done and my ass came out of retirement. I was done. So done. And my ass was like, you know what? I can do it. The world's gonna go to shit and I can help fix it. And now I'm sitting here like, why did I do this? I was out skis. I was done. And now I have to figure out an identity. I have to be human. I don't like it. Don't get me wrong, I love the people I've met. People are great. Like, when they genuinely have this like natural curiosity to explore the world and just not want to be stuck in cycles and not want to be complacent. I love it. And then there's the few humans who drive me absolutely up a wall because they would just rather do literally anything but explore everything that the world has to offer, and it drives me absolutely fucking bonkers. And it makes it very difficult for me to be connected here, because like the minute I start to see people like that, my spirit goes, no, I don't want to. And I get really floaty, and then I'm noticing that like I sort of float through the dimensions. And so you'll see me like, people be like, Aphrodite, what are you doing, Aphrodite? And I'm like, oh, I'm here. No, I'm not. I'm really not. Shh, don't tell me. I'm here. I heard everything you were saying, because like I've mastered the art of sort of being in this like meditative state while like being lucid at the same time. Right? Because like me, I don't know how I figured that out, but I figured it out. So I'll be like, yeah, ooh. And I will like meet with like masters and teachers who I'm supposed to see, and they'll be talking and you all will be talking, and I'll hear you and I'll sort of process what you're saying, and it'll go into where it needs to go. It won't go in one ear and out the other. It'll sort of sit in a little box. I call it like a little memory box. And by the time you're like this and I'm like, yes, I did hear exactly what you were saying, and I can solve that problem for you. I just need a minute. And then my brain sort of reboots and it comes out the memory box, and then I go, okay, so the response to this is, and like, it's just weird how my sort of multidimensional computerized brain works. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like one of the very first deities I worked with was Thoths. And so doing like deep subconscious work and figuring out how to compartmentalize things and figuring out like the sciences of things and the numbers of things and the mathematics of things and just how to work with things. And then sort of like Nikola Tesla, when that energy came in last year, which was a wild ride. If you've never worked in that frequency, if he's never shown up, you don't know paranoid. You don't know anxiety until, okay? Because when I'm telling you, I'm jotting down everything, and there's a sticky note, and there's a file for everything, but I can't feel this, and I don't want to put that there, and I don't trust leaving this here. So it took the two coming together, and Papa, I just call those, like, as much time as I spend in the spirit realm, this is family. I'm not going through all that. This is family, okay? Father will sort of give me an instruction, and I will have to work through the instruction in a particular frequency, and that person or frequency or whatever will help guide me through the instruction I was given. So it's kind of like if Thoths is saying, okay, you're gonna meet someone and they're a student, and so you need to come up with a curriculum, whoever is, you know, well within that range of like the curriculum that I need to be working on will come in and will lend me sort of that energy to work with. And I think I had this conversation before, that also stems into like people who have worked to continue from people who've passed on. So like people who are really drawn to like activists and things like that. It's not that you're just pulled to these people. A lot of the times they actually do lend you their energy. They do come in and say, okay, this was my work. I did not get to finish it. I need you to finish where I left off. Or this was the vision, and someone else from a higher dimension or frequency is going to give you the rest of the picture. I'm lending you my strength, and I need you to sort of complete this, or like they need you to complete this because it'll better humanity. Like the way that they work adjacent in a team to help move humanity forward is, if you knew, then you would understand why people get so crazy about topics of like energy harvesting, and why not everything deserves a response out of you, and why understanding how to work within a particular frequency or with particular deities, energies, or even deceased people, which is why a lot of people will be like, oh, I try to channel this particular celebrity. Like, be mindful. It's one thing if someone of a higher status comes in and says you are of the same frequency and I would like to lend you this energy, and it's another thing if you're pulling on their thread, because when you do that, you embody everything that comes with them, their pain, their sorrow, their death, the pain that they feel within their bodies, you know, everything all the way up until they die. So like, don't be surprised if you want to embody Marilyn and like, whoopsies, you're like depressed for like six or 7 weeks and you can't get out of bed. Like, great, babe, the pics were cute, but at what cost? Like, and not only that, like, did you ask? Were you respectful, or did you just kind of spiritually bypass and think you're better? So, and I mean, even that ties into like spiritual authenticity, because if you embody certain frequencies and energies for too long, then you sort of make that your whole personality. But is that you? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's hard. It's hard when you sit up there at those higher frequencies and you can channel and you can get into a lot of different shenanigans, spiritual fucking shenanigans, great shenanigans, so much fun. But like, if you do not know what you're doing, you do not have the proper permissions, it can be very dangerous. So the people who are trying to figure it out, take your time, take your sweet time. Understand you, do more meditation, like speak to your higher self and see what you look like. Try embodying that for like a solid month and see how you feel, because the information I get, the way that I work with my clients and so on, when I just embody my higher self, like physically, just in this state of like crazy essence and you know, crazy fashion, and very outspoken and very open-minded, and just, you know, no limitations, no restrictions, no judgments, looking at things from a very broad perspective, and things of that nature. A lot of things in my reality shift, quite possibly just because I am embodying a version of me that sits at an all-knowing frequency. That is not to say that I know all, it's just an all-knowing frequency, right? So like, I know more than I do embodying this vessel, like my current state. And I would say that the higher version of myself is tapped into what a lot of people would consider like Christ consciousness. But like, I very specifically within this vessel have a harder time getting to Christ consciousness directly. So like, I will connect to my higher self, who is then connected to like what you would consider to be Christ consciousness, like a higher elevated sort of, you know. So like, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure out how that works, or like how I manage to do that. But like, I think I'm just so floaty sometimes that like, they're like, nah, you need sort of a barrier. So you are your own barrier to protect yourself from like getting up there and not being where you need to be, and then sort of going, we don't need grippy socks. I am a 12 houser. I will just end up in grippy socks, and they will not let me out. This is one of those, you need someone to come sign you out. You can't voluntarily leave. Because I'll be like, the angels, they spoke to me. And then they'll be like, lady, you're crazy. But then I'll tell them how they'll die. And then they'll be like, maybe not. Maybe this lady knows what she's talking about, but still, we're going to keep her. Because now I'm scary. You know, balance. So I got to figure out how to be human, so I'm not turning into that. And that's not, you know, I make light of everything, because if I don't laugh at myself, then who will? But that's quite literally like one of my biggest fears this lifetime, is like being too tapped in and just losing my shit because I'm too tapped in. So spiritual authenticity. And I guess this whole video could count as sort of spiritual authenticity, because I got up here on camera and talked about my fears, and I talked about things that sort of happened, and I might sound a little crazy to some people, and to other people you just get it. So it's a lot, and I feel like if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Oh well. But I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to share all of the information that I have. So if you feel connected to me, if you feel drawn to me, if you feel like I provide a safe space for you and you would like a reading from me, you can book with me. Obviously, my January readings are still open. February is obviously wide open, especially with Valentine's Day coming up, and Valentine's Day is on a Venus day, which is a Friday, and my name is Aphrodite. Hello, come on now. Why would you not want a love reading from me? Hello, okay. I can see all the things you can't. I can get into the nooks and crannies, you know. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Anyways, but if you would like a reading from me, you can, you know how this works. The link is in the description box. But yeah, until then, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I was entertaining. I hope I made you laugh. I hope my grippy socks joke was funny. I can say it because I was actually in grippy socks at one point. You can't because you likely weren't. See how that works? I can say it. You can't. And if you can, welcome to the club. Welcome to the Grippy Socks Club. No, just kidding. Okay. Yeah, so I will see you in the next video. And until then, stay safe, stay prosperous, and keep doing a little jig and being authentic and just being happy to be you and existing. All right. Bye.